Hi, Shheethal. How are you?
Hi, Devvaki. How are you? I've been looking forward to this. We've rescheduled this, I think, number of times now, and then I'm truly happy to be here right now.
I'm so glad and welcome to No Idea Whatsoever. You've obviously had such an incredible journey, from being a tennis player to then marrying a cricketer to now having your own kids and now becoming a life coach. So I'm sure you have a lot of interesting things to share. So my first question, Shheethal, obviously is, did you know what you were going to do when you grew up, or did you have no idea whatsoever?
I think it just happened. Basically, I mean, to just give you a short background,
Yeah.
um, my parents got separated when I was like 7 years old.
Okay.
So I think, and then me and my brother, my younger brother, started living with my dad. And my dad at that point, I think, had no idea how to, do
Raise
the whole
kids.
thing between, yeah, raise two kids with working, etc.
Yeah.
So I think he wanted to buy a few more hours after school. So he just enrolled us into this tennis club that was right next to school. So we would finish school and then just walk to that place. So we would play for 2 hours. And then, my dad used to have that extra 2 hours. So I think it started like that, but
Okay.
it just happened that I think within the first year, I don't know, I think I just started playing well. So my dad was like, then he was like, okay, let me just actually focus on this. Not like it was a plan, it just
Yeah.
happened because of the circumstances of our lives.
Yeah. And then you obviously, I mean, so how long did you play for before he actually realized that, this is what you need to do?
I started playing like because I think I started playing at 8
Yeah.
and I started playing the under 10 tournaments, and then the first tournament I played I won.
Okay.
So it was
Wow.
like I was damn excited. And so was I,
Yeah.
because suddenly you see your name in the newspaper, and as a child it's like, oh wow, like everybody is like asking me, telling me how great I am. And I think it was just like that momentary thing. So that's how it actually started. It didn't have an agenda, to be honest. But I think when I started playing, I quickly picked up, and within 2 years I started playing for India under 14. So it just happened organically in the beginning,
Yeah.
but obviously, like, I think post that 11, 12, and when I got picked up for India is when my dad was like, okay, she's going to fully do this.
Okay.
So
When you were, sort of focusing on sports so much, and, really, I've spoken to so many people in sport, and it really is an entire life on its in itself. It's you have your school, but sport really kind of subsumes you into everything that your body requires. And plus, it takes a lot of mental strength to play, So how is it coping with school and playing sport at such a, competitive level?
to be honest, I barely went to school because I was traveling like 40 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And my thank God that my school was so supportive. Like my principal then, she was extremely supportive, but and they did, everything in their strength
Yeah.
to make sure that I passed
Yeah.
and not really like get the education that I think I needed to have. So I think I've missed a lot of school, but I any actually, when I was traveling, I now to just recollect, I
Yeah.
never felt like there was a difference between me being in class for or not being in class,
Yeah.
because all they cared about is notes being complete at the end of the year or something on those lines.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
had this session where they used to get my notes, fully done. And it's just that in the end I had to study and pass. But funnily, I don't think I should be saying this, but
No, you must.
fourth- from fourth standard to
Yeah.
the 10th standard when there was board exam, I have never given exam. So
Okay.
I
Wow.
felt the pressure.
Lucky you.
but today it's a system, right? And like I didn't get into that rat race, but you know, it was like that. And but because I was traveling so much, um, only for because 10th was the I think the board exams, right? So because
Yes.
of it, I had to give. So the only reason I probably even wrote that exam because of that.
Yeah.
Um, but coping was hard. Like I would dread going to school, you know.
And I think, this is one of the questions I asked Robin, who happens to, for everybody to be your husband. And he mentioned that, obviously, if you're playing sport and you want to pursue that, the curriculum for a sports person should be very different and actually gear them up for what they need outside of just the sport, i.e., life skills, emotional intelligence. You need so much mental strength. You need public speaking skills, just overall language enhancement and development for financial literacy. I mean, how do you manage money at that age, when you're making money sooner than most people because you're winning prizes and competitions and things like that. So what is your view on that, just having a different curriculum for yourself? What would you have wanted your school to, or not just this, I don't think it's just the school, I think it's the overall system. What do you think the system should have given you that you didn't get growing up?
I, I mean, you know, the first thing that stands out for me today, you know, I
Yeah.
don't like because I've not barely gone to school,
Yeah.
but all that I've learned, all that I have actually gathered is because of the exposure, you know, that I've had through traveling, you know, and
Correct.
playing sport itself.
Yeah.
But there is a part which I think was a lack for me was one definitely like I think as Robert has mentioned, nobody taught me how to be confident when I go and you know probably
Yeah.
even speak in front of somebody, you know,
Yeah.
or how like I think for me math has been such a block in my head because it
Yeah.
always was, oh, this plus this has to be this. And if you write
Yeah.
that answer, you're going to get marks. What I truly believe has to be worked on, and especially with kids today, is I think the personality, the
Yeah.
social skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, because for me, I'm like, okay, I went to school, I had social skills, but nobody actually corrected me if I
Yeah.
was doing something. Nobody guided me, anything for that matter, you know,
Yeah.
and really just what turned out, you know. So I just truly believe that no matter, I think every subject, there has to be an agenda to implement it in
Outside
probably
your
in,
classroom.
yeah, outside the
Yeah.
classroom. And
Yeah.
I think to
Absolutely.
find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I think because I feel like you know, I am a graduate, but I like if I have to connect anything from there to here, I cannot. You know?
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things we teach at Instrucko, personality development is such an important component
Yeah.
in every sphere of life, whether you're playing a sport, whether you're interviewing for a school, whether you're out just socially, especially, there's so much yeah, that you need to know in today's day and age in order to just even be good enough. Like these days you meet kids and they're like, wow, I didn't know 10% of what this kid knows today. But
Yeah.
what's still lacking really is that confidence. That so very few kids will have that. A lot of kids need help with that. And even now, while schools are trying to implement certain processes, these things are still, I would say, the last priority. The first priority is, what is your grade? Right? How have you performed? What grade have you got? And there's still that thing, that stigma of I've come first in my class or second in my class. But you may come first academically, but in terms of your personality enhancement, your confidence, you may not even come in the top 10 or 20. So I
Yeah.
feel like even the grading needs to be an overall system and more project based in different spheres, as opposed to, you've come first because you got 100 on 100.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I think.
and similar to you, I had such a fear of math as well because, I was just like, why am I doing algebra? Like, why am I doing trigonometry? What am I going
Geometry.
to, why? I don't even care about the sine and cos. What am I doing in my life? So it is definitely something I feel that needs to change. And that's why, we try and keep things as relevant as possible, or teach kids through stories that talk about real life topics, to really prep them for outside the classroom. But tell me, you obviously have two kids. What is it? And they're going to schools, and they were in schools in India. How is firstly the Indian education system for you? and now they're in Dubai. So tell me about that. What is the difference that you really see in them?
Actually, we moved, I think, at the right time. So my older one, who is now 6 years old, he went. Actually, I was lucky to have a good school in Bangalore, which
Yeah.
was a school actually.
Okay.
But my actually, to be honest, my second one though started school here. Again, she's in like a play school, but again, so well structured. And my son, see, I think I knew of because my friends' kids went to
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew of how it how it is functioning.
Yeah.
But I think just by the know-how of it, today when my son goes to school, one big thing that I see is there's no grade system. There's no like first rank, second rank. That's how it was. And nobody, feels like, oh, someone is better than the
Better.
other or
Yeah.
superior than the other. And especially at
Yes.
that age, I think, I don't know why it's not noticed that, like at that age, when you feel like you've not done well compared to somebody, already hits your confidence. And
Absolutely.
it's from such a, root level that you feel like, you know,
Not good
behind
enough.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
not good enough. And then no matter what you do, it's still a struggle to get over this, resolve this, to actually experience confidence wholly.
Or yeah.
But I think like here, like I see that there is so say even say in a class of 20, 25, if there are few kids or many kids who are not in par with the other kids in a certain subject, so they recognize that and then they make sure that that set of kids are given that extra attention in that subject. And somebody else could be a little weaker in something else. So they focus on what needs to be focused on. And it's never that they are in competition for anything.
Yeah.
So I think everybody feels like, hey, everybody's doing the same. And it could be reading, writing, math, whatever it is. And they make groups where knowingly, unknowingly, they help each other. One who's better and the other who's better at something else. I've seen that there's a system where they bring different subjects together to as if like this one's teaching the other one
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And it's all
which is
happening very organically.
my son seems to be better at this and not something else, but it's made to feel like he's teaching the other kid something and the
Yeah.
other kid is like a even space.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so I just felt like that was amazing because I never experienced that, because I
Yeah.
always was last in class because of not knowing half the things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's just the system is, at least here, I
Yeah.
cannot compete with the system in India right now because my kids didn't go, to school enough for me to say it. But from whatever I've seen, like I actually have discussed with a lot of my friends who are parents,
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same, but maybe just upgraded in a few ways. But the system of learning still remains, which I feel like is not the greatest thing for an individual and as a country, even, right? And why is it that we are the smartest, probably the country? And still, when you go out there, the confidence
Yeah.
comes last, two
Absolutely.
out of 10. And I've seen that through and through. I see it even here. It's like you're better, but you just don't have it to go and
Yeah.
stand there feeling that.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that comes from a deep-rooted sense of being very careful about everything, of being right. In India, if for the culture is very much, for example, if you're wrong, you won't admit it, or there's some sort of embarrassment in being wrong, or some sort of embarrassment in asking, "Hey, I don't know this. Tell me what it is." And I've seen this, and this happens even at work. So many people when we do team meetings, etc., they don't know something, they won't, many of them will not say they don't know it. They'll say, yeah, yes, I don't know. I'm just like, just say I don't know. And it's okay. There's no shame in not knowing something. You can't know everything. And that's why
yeah.
when you're abroad, everything is more question-based learning. Here, there's a teacher telling you, okay, this is what you need to learn. and obviously you're allowed to ask questions, but still the format is not question-based learning. There's no sort of critical thinking that is embedded in you, where you're like, you ask a question that you probably don't feel so silly about asking, because in your mind, that's a fair question.
Yeah, actually, that's very true because I think in Indian schools, I mean, no, I guess it's not all. I think
Yeah,
schools are actually trying to, you know, make it more. I think they're trying to align with the systems outside. But I feel like yeah, like you rightly said, it's just taught apparently, and it's expected for the whole class or whatever
to
it is
understand.
to understand it the same way.
Yes.
And then it's like, and in their heads, it's like this is simple, this is the basic, they should get it. Maybe 10 kids got it, but the other 10, yeah. Like I have never, like if I have to ask a question in the few times that I've gone to school,
Yeah.
and chance, or even the other way around, like if they have asked me and I don't know, I have been made to stand on the bench, like, because how can you not know this? Like this is
Yeah.
basic. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem basic in my head,
Exactly. And
But
then the next
yeah,
time you're scared, you're like, even though I don't know this, I'd rather not
I
ask,
don't
because
even
again, I'm
want
going to
to
have to
ask
stand
it.
on the bench.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, no, there
Yeah.
is a huge, and I think more than this really tells us that the teachers need to be trained, and the teachers make such a big difference, right? And I keep saying this repeatedly, like a broken record, that I mean, I've had teachers teaching me subjects that I could never imagine liking, and I love those subjects.
Because you spend so much time with them and you're learning from them,
Yeah,
and which you're trusting them with the information shared. And
yeah,
I feel like teachers have such a huge responsibility
absolutely.
in creating these kids, I feel like, or
Yeah,
even the name doesn't matter.
yeah. And one more thing that we keep talking about in Instrucko is really promoting independent learning, because even now, we have some parents who sit in the class with the child and will literally nudge the child and say, why don't you know this, or why don't and you can see that it puts a lot of pressure on the child. And sometimes children are doing, they're scared to ask questions from the parents sometimes. And I feel like independent learning is so important, where you just let your child be in the class, and it's not like in school you can control what's happening, right? So why are you controlling it outside also?
Yeah.
So how do you inculcate independent? I'm sure you are doing that, so I'm not going to ask you, do you do it, because I know you do it for sure. But how do you inculcate that in your kids?
So, I mean, to be very honest, it's like the only time I get into their whatever is because he gets a set of homework that comes at the
Yeah.
end of the week. And it's just like, touching upon all that they have learned. So both Robin and I do not like to sit with him. We just, make sure, now he has started reading. Like last year, he was still learning to read. So we're
Yeah.
like, okay, these are the things, please, like, figure it out because you must have learned this. So many a times, he's actually not done the homework because he's actually not able to do it on his own. So we have sent back the same thing and not just write an answer based on us
What
telling.
because most parents, and I'm going to take the liberty of saying that, would actually just for the sake of getting the homework done, would just dictate it and say, okay, now you can go and submit it. But if they actually started sending homework back saying, my child didn't know this, so why should I make them do it? It would change the entire perspective from the teacher's side and make the teacher really rethink that, listen, maybe I'm teaching something incorrectly, that say this child is not, or not incorrectly well, or this child hasn't been able to comprehend what I'm teaching. But so how do the teachers react to that in the Middle East?
No, yeah, so I think here they're very open. So in fact, like they have told us that let them do it, but obviously help them with, just putting it out in a structure where they can, there's a homework
Yeah,
book. They have to put the math here, English here, whatever.
yeah,
But when it goes back, in fact, like they make sure that whatever they're not able to do is focused on,
correct.
and funnily, I've seen over time that what he was not able to even say read, or it could be phonics, it could be math, it could be something else. Like just last week, and I suddenly feel like, oh, he's understanding this now. And
Yeah.
even before, he's like, oh, these are red words, these are this words. And I'm like, oh, like something he didn't know, like say 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So whatever is not done, they know that he's not able to do on his own. Because homework is not for us, it's for them, right?
And is that
So
just you, or do other parents there, like I'm sure you have, groups of moms you speak with, do they do the same thing?
I think yes, because that's been kind of not directly communicated to us, but it's just that do not do the homework for them. Let
That's
them do
really
the
good.
homework. So that's very clear. So obviously, like what is that? Their parents, I've heard and seen that they send notes saying, "Oh my God, my child doesn't know this. Please
Yeah.
make sure that you teach them." They probably send back notes,
Yeah.
and other than that, they don't complete it for sure. I know that.
And, this is obviously one type of parenting. And then there's another type where, they just like parents just don't let their children be independent. They just are constantly hounding them to do things. Since you're a life coach, I'm asking this question because obviously you speak to so many people from different walks of life. What is your advice for such people?
I think the previous generations did that to us, where there has to be this way, that way. And I just feel like it limits human beings, to actually explore what they're capable of.
Yeah.
Because you're always going by someone telling you what to do and
Yeah.
how to do.
Yeah.
And what if me as a child, or my child as who is able to do or think or be better than what I imagine to be. And for to know that the only way is to give them the freedom to make decisions, take responsibility,
Yeah.
uh, and make mistakes. I think, to be honest, I think everybody's scared to let their kids make mistakes. And
Yeah.
I think that's the
Absolutely.
biggest, almost like an issue that I see, because like what's going to happen if you make a mistake? You learn and you try to better it.
Yeah.
But it becomes a big deal for a lot of people. That also, that's because I feel that I see consistently is people, especially parents, take kids' behaviors, kids' actions, inactions as their embarrassment, as if,
Absolutely.
and that I feel is no, wrong. And for me, that is like something everybody needs to be aware of, because you can't make a child feel like, oh my God, if you do this, if you throw a tantrum somewhere, I'm embarrassed. And then because of which, yeah, which means you have a problem
Yeah.
to deal with what the situation is or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it has nothing to do with the child. And
Yeah.
I feel awareness is a big lack. Um, and that's almost is like, as a child, it must, I, I luckily I have not gone through that, because my dad was like somebody who just always made sure that no matter what I do, it's fine. And I
Yeah.
don't worry about what people think.
And these things require very real conversations with kids, and a certain amount of openness, right? How do you do that? How do you have that communication channel where that uh, no matter what your child has done, even if he's scared that, oh, I did something wrong, or how do you make sure that they always come and communicate with you? What do you do for that? Because again, that's something parents really struggle with.
Mm. Yeah, I think, see, what Rob and me have done is that one thing made sure that they have the freedom to come and talk to us. Like, you have to create that space where they're not scared to come and talk to you. Firstly,
Yeah.
I think it starts with that. Because if they feel like I can go say whatever it is, and it's not like, oh my God, there's going to be some huge repercussion like for it. I think when kids are growing up, there's a stage where they're exploring, lying, they're exploring manipulation, they're exploring, because they're also figuring things out. And then I think we made it a rule that no matter what, you have to tell us the truth. And I feel like he also like didn't trust it, fully initially,
Initially.
because he knows he's done wrong, because he figured it, but he's trying how it feels to probably manipulate. And but I think one of the things that we've also learned along the way is when they come and tell you the truth, no matter how wrong it looks or
Yeah,
how
that's the time you need to,
acceptable it is, you
yeah,
have to, number
be
one,
accepting.
accept that, yes, and because they have told us the truth, appreciate them and acknowledge the fact that, we are really grateful for the truth that has been shared.
Yeah.
And teach them that, hey, maybe this is not the right way to do it because this can hurt people, this can, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But I think that one of the most basic things is to create trust between the parent and the child, that the child is not scared.
And this is again, something, of course, as parents, we have to do, but also in school, they really have to implement things around, teaching them empathy, patience, kindness, being honest, so many important things that are critical to have in today's day and age. And for you, Sheetal, what are some of the important, I would say, skills, I also, subjects that you think are very important for them?
So I feel like, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I don't think I have any particular subject that,
Yeah, it's not like you want him to become a doctor, which is
yeah,
which was every
because
parent's dream at some point.
mine didn't, so thank God for that. But I feel like it's I don't, both Robin and me, that's, I think that's our, base, that let them explore and figure what they want to do.
Yeah.
And for all it could not be anything to do with school. It could be a sport, it could be an instrument, it could be something else they're good at.
Yes.
But this probably just, I think, gives you the base education. And then, there's so much more than education, right? And like you rightly said, you learn to coexist with probably kids that you like and kids that you don't like,
Yeah.
or still being able to be there and go through the day feeling whatever. And I feel like one is, of course, I think schools have to like somehow teach empathy, kindness,
Yeah.
how to recover from a fight, how to recover
Yes.
when when you're having a bad day, or how to deal with it, and how to treat another if somebody is having a bad day.
Yeah.
Those are the most basic things, because we're not going to have a good day all the time, right? And at the end of the day, we are human beings. And I feel like that needs to be focused on. But then, as I don't have any favorite subjects, or actually at home, I think they're with, like, they're sheltered, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they have a certain capability, demeanor that they have at home. But without their knowledge, I think, without their actual conscious mind, they get into another state when they're in school, when they're somewhere else, when they're in classes. And I feel those are all the actual learning spaces.
And I think one more thing, obviously, like you rightly said, is to understand yourself. And that we have to do at every age stage, every relationship. We react so differently to different things. And that's one thing I wish I learned in school, like, how do you understand yourself? Like, how do you focus on what you're thinking about? Sometimes we fight our own feelings and, say that even though I'm feeling this, I shouldn't, but really to understand these things. And then the other thing, to do with this is to be able to effectively communicate what you're thinking. I think that's another thing that we don't really teach or talk about. Because again, it's, we're all some, and honestly, I face this even at work, and I'm sure everyone, relationships, and I'm sure, again, like, you're a life coach, you meet so many people, that their intentions may be 100% correct, but because of that communication gap, they have just made a mess out of something they wanted to say, because they just couldn't communicate it properly. Because we don't know how to, like, we just don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to sort of express our feelings in the correct way. And this is something, if you learn as a child, you will, it's like how they say, every day, if you meditate every day, you'll be calmer, you'll be more patient. But this should be one of the classes in school, that listen, you have to learn to communicate every single day of your life, so that by the time you're 30 or 35 or 40, you have mastered that art. And you know how to communicate with everybody.
I think that's such a important aspect, honestly.
Yeah.
In fact, Robin and me uh, keep laughing about it, because I have a certain way of communicating which he feels is the most complicated way. And I'm like, this is how I understand it, and
Yes.
I feel like it has to be, I don't know, I just feel like again, the communication, I think, comes from, see, I mean, I think one can communicate better than the other, or,
Yeah,
more confidently. All that again comes down to, I think, how a person is made to feel and the
sure.
confidence that's given. And I feel like it's all interconnected,
Yeah,
that I think the personality development is so important. And I feel like schools have that space to actually do it with number of kids. And then, and each one's strength is going to be different.
yeah,
But to make each one feel like they are their best selves, and to actually acknowledge their own greatness and their flaws, their weaknesses, and make it normal. I think,
yeah,
like, there's almost like, I think, while growing up I had this image um that at all times you needed to be correct, that at all times you needed to say things correctly. It's like almost like, otherwise you're judged as, oh, she doesn't know, or
yeah,
it could, but and I see that that's constant everywhere. So it's like you have to say the right things at all times. You have to look a certain way at all times.
yeah,
And I feel like it's stressful, and you're always questioning yourself as to, what do I say for it to seem right in this
yeah,
place, in different spaces? And I feel like it shouldn't be like that,
yeah.
It's like, just let people, I think, teach kids to be themselves regardless of which space they are in. And yeah, I just feel like that needs to be taught.
Yeah, and I think one thing that, with you saying all this comes to my mind is that when kids are also, or for example, even for adults, we're always categorized as introverts and extroverts. And then there's a real category like, oh, he's an introvert, he doesn't speak much. She's an extrovert, she's always talking, she's quite, vivacious. What is your definition of it in a really technical sense? Because people really mistake the definition of an introvert and an extrovert.
Yeah, see, I just truly believe that I don't think there are introverts and extroverts. I don't even believe in that concept, honestly. I just feel like who each person chooses to share their thought or
Yeah,
not. And some want to put it out and maybe have a discussion about it. And some, they just want to keep their thought or opinion or whatever it is to themselves. And they're not the kinds who want to share, and
yeah,
which is fine. And it doesn't categorize them into something.
yeah,
And I just think it becomes such a big deal. Oh, she's an introvert, so she won't talk. He's
yeah,
a extrovert, so he will talk. And also, funny, I've always been called an extrovert, but it almost creates pressure wherever I go.
yeah. For you to
I
be.
am I'm supposed to deliver something. I don't feel like talking today. But if they go, something's wrong, I'm like, no, I just don't feel like talking.
Yeah,
But so, and then, I think it's time for me to take a step back and say, I don't need to participate in this. I don't
correct.
need to take responsibility for their expectation.
Yeah.
And so in between, I've heard this, oh, you've changed a lot. I'm like, well, I'm just being who I want to
Well,
be.
change is the only constant in life, as they say. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
also fine. And
You
what
know.
is your advice for young parents, professional, young working parents now, to really, again, I think bring up their children in the best possible way, on the most, I would say, in a way where they can really inculcate independent learning and let them really, sometimes children's personalities also get curbed because the parents can be quite overpowering or sort of dominating. So, what is your advice just overall for parents?
I mean, I don't think I can give advice, but I
And
think
you're a
from
life coach, so surely you give advice all the time when people talk.
first, each each one has their own way of parenting, and you have to respect that because
Yeah,
it's based on their individuality and parents as unit. Also, every household is different,
yeah,
so. And I just feel like the core of everything is how the child feels. And is the child in a good space at all times, and is the child able to be themselves,
Yeah.
be, is he given the is he or she given the space to express themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, so many people who cannot emote, cannot express what they feel. And that is because they were never allowed as,
Yeah.
kids to do that. They were just told this is right, this is wrong. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's one thing that parents should, I think if there's any so-called advice that I can give, is that there is truly there's wrong and right is what you believe, in, and it's not everybody's right and everybody's wrong.
Yeah.
And I just give that space for the child to express and be there when they have something to share,
Yeah.
and don't take it personally, I feel, because it's so common to see that everything happens personally, you
Yeah.
know don't take it personally. I feel like just accept that, okay, this is the thought process of your child and it's
Yeah.
different from ours, and it's fine. And in fact, I think we should be proud that they're not just following what we did,
Yeah.
they're far superior than us, and let them give or be a part of that journey where they can truly be themselves. Yeah.
And one thing again, and that everyone really talks about is emotional intelligence. But how do you build that? Like, how do you see, how you help your children build that?
I see, for me, I think everything roots to awareness. And I feel the minute, as adults, as kids, as anyone, I feel like if you have awareness, you're automatically like, you're just doing everything better because you're not doing things mindlessly. You're
Yeah.
not doing things being without having a thought to it. It's not like random actions. And I think that's a practice. It's not like something that just happens that,
Yeah.
oh, I'm an aware person. No, it's practice. And I think the younger we make them get into spaces where they need to be aware of their actions in spaces with people, especially where there is friction or where there is, a discomfort for them. And I think keep like being that shadow where you're just helping them to be aware until it becomes a part of them. Because even today as adults, I meet like so many people who have like everything is like more like out of not even instinct, it's out of habit,
Yeah, absolutely.
not because, hey, this is the thing that works for me, and the lack of awareness is crazy. And I don't know how, like, every single person is going to change this, because eventually we all have to, because
Yeah.
otherwise just living a life and not actually um experiencing it as you probably
Yeah,
could.
you're so right about that. Yeah.
So I just feel like it's that awareness that you keep building, and
Yeah.
then again, like it leads to, because each person, I think each child will flourish to be what they are capable of, and we just have to be there as somebody. Obviously, we as parents, we're always trying to protect them, and as long as you know that that's the intention, I think let them explore and
Yeah.
give that space, be creating, awareness. Yeah.
And I think, this Sheetal has been such an informative episode where you have talked about all these interesting things that as a parent, you're experiencing this firsthand, talking about it. And, you yourself went through life with one parent, and it's definitely not easy. And sometimes, people go the other way, but you have really learned from that and then really sort of implemented that in your life to give the best you can to your kids. So thank you so much for coming. And, it was really nice to have you here.
Thank you, thank you. And I think it just felt so nice to actually share like a lot of things, because even I kind of realized a lot of things that made me aware
Yeah.
of certain actions and then
Yeah,
inactions.
absolutely.